Hi, you found the YouTube instructions for the little cardboard lugger fishing boat model, which I've put together for Luggerfest in Alipool. You should have 3 sheets, and I've coloured mine in, but you don't have to. A couple of barbecue canes, they're about 3mm across, try and get straight ones. Some scissors, some kind of white PVA glue, and a ruler if you can get a nice hard steel one, but any fairly decent ruler will do. Before we get into this, I'll show you some tips for cutting out and folding. It's good to start by cutting big. Get the larger pieces out before you try anything too precise. As I say, cut big, then cut small. These bits usually cut fairly well. If you're colouring in, you don't have to stick to the lines. Just cut them off. Look out for instructions and leave things like this little tab here, and you'll see a few other little instructions written on the sheets as well. When you're cutting, cut close to the line and leave some of the line on the edge of the finished piece, and your sizes should be dead right. Just do small cuts, a bit at a time. It's good to start by cutting big. Get the larger pieces out before you try anything too precise. As I say, cut big. You just get a whole big cut on these. Then cut small. These bits usually cut fairly well. Just clip them out. If you're colouring in, you don't have to stick to the lines. Just cut them off. Look out for instructions and leave things like this little tab here, and you'll see a few other little instructions written on the sheets as well. When you're cutting, cut close to the line and leave some of the line on the edge of the finished piece, and your sizes should be dead right. Just do small cuts, a bit at a time. That's important. Otherwise, when this folds under, you can't get the mast through. So do cut that out. And it says cut, so you cut all the way to the top of the blue. You don't have to cut all the bits out. It only really helps if you're making a film about it. You can cut them out as you go. These aren't parts. I cut myself out some glue spreaders from the scrap, and there's the scrap. That's important. Otherwise, when this folds under, you can't get the mast through. So do cut that out. And it says cut, so you cut all the way to the top of the blue. You don't have to cut all the bits out. It only really helps if you're making a film about it. You can cut them out as you go. These aren't parts. I cut myself out some glue spreaders from the scrap, and there's the scrap. If you're folding, lay the item over the edge of the ruler and score it like that. If you can't see the edge, put it on the front, fold it that way, turn it over, you can see it now, and make the fold. Do the same thing with the flaps as well. Right, let's get on with it. First thing you're going to want to do is attach the base to the base. Now, even if you don't want a display base, this makes for a really good stable way to build your model, and you can then cut it out. So bear with me. Got all these flaps here. A great way to fold them is just to put your ruler, especially if it's got a curved edge, but even with a straight edge, these are getting folded upwards like this. So once all these are folded up, actually fold them right in out of the way. So then we're going to get our glue. This is just a white PVA glue, and you can cut yourself some glue spreaders from all the waste card in your kit. And making sure that you put the bow to the bow. Stick this down on there and make sure it's sitting flat. There's a lot of information written on here which you might want to use, so I'll just put that out of the way, and we're going to turn to our hull sides. So you line up this flap. This flap gets folded down, and you want to fold it right back. You can put it down like that and gently give it a rub. Okay, we've got the rudder here, and this one's getting folded up towards you. You'll see why in a minute. Really fold that up towards you, and the same with the other rudder half. Okay, now we're going to stick those in a minute, but first of all we're going to stick the bow halves. Now when you stick these, it's really important to make sure the whole hull pieces are aligned like that. Got some glue coming out. Ugh. Scrape that off, but do then make sure you can open that like that. Leave that a minute to stick. But you can open it right out and just make sure that's sticking nicely. And when you're happy that that's gone, we're going to move to these rudder pieces here, and we want them to be flat together, and because they're folded outwards, the hull is starting to look a bit Zulu-like. Now, I heard that the Zulu fishing boats, the design became popular whilst the British were fighting the Zulu warriors in the Boer War, I think. Well, the Zulu Wars. Someone's going to correct me on that. And the Scottish fishermen admired the spirit and strength of the Zulu warriors. So this type of fishing boat was named out of respect, a degree of admiration at the time. So we're squishing that, holding that, and making sure, look, that we push this like that so that that is open and we don't get waste glue sticking that elsewhere. We can even sort of fold that rudder back on itself a little bit both ways and then leave that to dry. Okay, it's time to stick the hull down on the base, remember, bow to bow, and we're gonna pop this down on here and make sure that all of those tabs are inside the hull, on the inside. You might have to fiddle around with it. Hold it down here. I've got a brush here for my glue, and I'm going to put glue behind each of those tabs and work my way round, pressing them home to the inside of my hull. And a little bit of glue in there won't go inside there. Okay, that's had a few minutes to dry. I'm going to put some glue on here. These are the frames of the boat, and they've got no tabs on them. We're just going to dip them in plenty of glue and put them vertically in position. You'll see the little numbered lines. Make sure they're pretty much vertical. Okay, now we're moving on to the bow and stern supports. I've already put the bow support in. It's this one that runs here. And again, for some reason I have to trim a little bit off the back. So try it first. It's a bit big. Just trimmed a little bit off. Other times it's fine. I wonder if it's something to do with when you print these things off, if you've downloaded it. But overall, I hope you'll find that the model goes together pretty well. There's the stern support, and that just drops in there. Whoops. When you're not leaning around a camera, just fine. Obviously make sure your glue's all dry first. Okay, on the inside of the boat, that's these inside edges here, you've got these little linings, and they go on the inside, on there and in there. But before you pop them in, you're going to want to fold these tabs towards you. And then we're going to put glue on the other side, on the back. Not on the tabs, just on there, and stick that on the inside of the boat, and it looks something like this. Okay, that's been stuck in now, and basically the edge, you want the edge to be level with the top of the boat. Okay, we're ready to put the deck on, and you might think that now's a good time to put on our hatch covers and other bits and pieces, but not really, because this deck actually has a curve, so it's best put on the hull first, and then these will follow the curve of the deck. One important thing, we have got 2 holes here for masts, and on the hatch covers and on the forward mast support we also have holes for masts. It's really important that we don't pierce these too large. We do them a little bit small so that when this barbecue cane goes in with a lot of glue on it, it goes in good and tight and stays where it's put. So on this end of the barbecue cane we've got a point. I've got some blue tacky plasticine stuff, and I'm going to put that there and just make, very carefully, sorry my hands are in the way, just a small hole. It's nowhere near big enough for the barbecue cane to go all the way in. I'm just starting a little hole like that. Okay, and I'm going to do the same with these bits while I remember, because you don't want to be doing this when the model's assembled and you have to squash it. That's not good. Okay, incidentally, when the mast goes in, make sure it's got a flat base, because that's going to be covered in glue and it wants to stay where you put it. It's a really good idea with any model to dry run first. So we're going to drop that in, and you want to make sure you can see all of this lovely bulkhead detail. When you get to the stern, you'll find you need to spread things a little more, and holding the bow down with my thumb, just going to give that a push. That is fine. These are smaller at this end. That, I don't know if that's focused, that looks great. So once we've glued this, we are going to have to sit there like that and just really let the glue take, and you might want to push that down and just make sure everything's where you want it. So I'm going to glue this off camera because it's going to be really tricky to do from where I'm standing. Okay, that's gone on quite well. I was quite pleased with that. There was glue all everywhere on all of the little tabs and along the top edges of all of those ribs, just anywhere that would take glue. And I'm just holding this all in place while the glue dries. I'm going to carefully slide it over there. Meanwhile, we can turn our attention to the deck house. What you've got here, you've got a fish hold here, and then a bit of accommodation. And do make sure you've cut there. So I'm going to fold all of these. Now again, getting the ruler behind, it's rather difficult. So you can put it on the front. This wooden framing is the top. The blue is the side. So I'm just going to hide the wooden framing and give myself a first fold this way. And then I can turn it over and I can see that fold clear enough. Put my ruler against it and fold it back towards me. And it definitely wants to go. And that's given me a really nice fold. That's great. I can flatten it out again and do the wee flaps. That's the fish hold and the deck house all folded up carefully. There's no little tabs joining these corners, they just hold themselves together. So we're going to get these glued and get that stuck down. So not much to hold this together until it's in place. So the trick is get it lined up, push the sides vertical, push the sides in, and then hold it down. Just going in, the sides want to splay out there, so I'm just going all around still, making sure everything's where it should be, and then it's my hand pressure that's actually maintaining the shape of this assembly just while the glue dries. That's looking good. Quite happy with that. Going to put this forward mast support on now, and it's very important you cut this little nick out of here so that then, as you see, the mast can pass through, otherwise you're blocking that. So, same story. This glue goes on outside here, that's going to stick on the inside of the bulwarks, the little walls around the hull. The sides flare out, so you might want to get a stick under here and push those flaps outwards so that they make contact. Actually just pushing them down does a good job. Just installing the little raised piece at the stern, like a little mini after deck, and you're just putting glue on the outside of it, and therefore you're sticking it to the inside of these bulwarks here. So I'm just pressing it down with my finger and giving it a little pinch. So I was going to hold that for a while. Okay, ship's wheel. It's a complicated, maybe, little assembly this. So we're creasing there and there and there, so that what it does, it folds up into a little curled up sort of snail, and then we're gluing that in there like that, and then we're putting glue on here and glue on here and popping it in the stern, which I'll show you now. And there it is. Steering arrangements on these boats would have varied, and you can certainly add your own detail to personalise it to a particular boat. But at least we've got a wheel in the stern. There's a little panel on the printed sheets that tell you how long the different masts should be. So the mast at the front, at the bows, is the main mast. Then we've got the mizzen, that's the one at the back. And then we've got this spar, which I call a bumpkin, that sticks out the back. And you'll see where those go in a minute. And they're all measured up on my rule. If you are a younger modeler and you're not really used to cutting stuff like that, then get a bit of help and learn how. Okay, stepping the masts. Now, you want quite a bit of glue on here, and you certainly want glue on the bottom, a blob of glue on the bottom. I'll talk a bit more about the glue in a second, but I just need to get this in. There we go. So you can make these holes a little bit bigger. But make sure when you put it in, the mast is nice and tight. Now I know glue is going everywhere, but I've got a secret weapon for that, so don't worry. So this first mast is angled backwards ever so slightly. I'm using a glue called Copydex. Can't see it, it says Copydex there. Which means I can actually get rid of that. But if you're using PVA, at this point you just wipe that off while it was still wet. But you want glue on the bottom of the mast, so when it goes down it's actually sticking to the card in the bottom of the boat, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to use one of the pointy ends here just to make sure I'm going all the way through. I'm not going to make the hole too big. Get some more glue on here. As I say, a little bit more glue than you might think is sensible. Push it through. Now this mast used to be vertical, and actually on some of these boats it leant forward slightly, but I'm just going to prop it in place with my jam jars. Make sure you've got the straightest barbecue cane you can find. Put that there, and then just check down the front of the boat as well. I'm just propping that a little bit, that your masts are vertical. Now in a minute I'll stick the bumpkin on when this jam jar's out of the way. And like I said, with this Copydex glue, all that excess glue, I can just roll that out the way when it's dry. It's really good. And in fact, if you make a mistake with the Copydex, you can pull the paper pieces apart roll off all the glue and it's perfect and back to normal and off you go, whereas with the PVA it can be, it'll soak in a bit more and take longer to dry, but they're both good. Okay, I'm going to put the bumpkin on now. Now if you were adding loads of detail to your model, then I know that you would put some more mounting hardware on here, and it would be a good place for some more detail. I'm just putting a blob of glue there on the port aft corner of my deck house, and a little blob of glue on the port side of my wheel. I'm just going to leave that in place. Plenty of scope for adding more detail if you'd like to. Just the sails now. So this is the mainsail. You can tell it's got a little lug down here for gluing. Show you that in a minute. Now the spars on this main and the mizzen, you fold those in half. Hold a ruler behind this little scored centre line and make sure it's right. Give it a rub and it'll make your crease. Fold it over. All you're really doing for that is just giving this top edge a bit more stiffness. And once that's been folded down, I'm going to get some glue in there and stick it. Now you'll notice the back of the sail isn't printed. So the model's really designed to be viewed from the starboard side, but of course you're more than welcome to draw your own detail on that, colour it in, and off you go. Okay, here's my sail, the folded spar. This is called the yard. This is glued down. It's all rather flat at the moment, so what I'm going to turn it over and going from this leading corner here, just very gently put a nice even curve into it. Not much, just that. So I've got to hold this down just while it dries. You might have a sensible idea to use a clothespin or a bit of tape. Now this trailing edge of the sail, the clew, would normally have a rope attached to it, which would be taken back in the vessel and tensioned at a cleat somewhere around here. Now we're not going to that level of detail, but we'd quite like a rope on the clew or a clew sheet. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. You could take a piece of cotton, glue it to the very outer corner of the sail, and then simply running it down at an angle and gluing it just into those bulwarks there. But if you're not minded to go and get a bit of cotton, I'll show you something else. Take a piece of scrap paper. This was my mast dimensions. And just, you might have to practice this a bit. Cut yourself a piece of rope. You could colour that if you want, rope coloured. This does not need to be very long. I think probably about like that. And I'm going to simply pop a bit of glue on one end first of all, and just to show you on the other sail, you kind of want it to be at an angle that's halfway between that side and that side, so it kind of cuts that angle in half. In fact, on this sail there's a wee line there, you can glue it on there. So I'm going to put one on here and I'll put one on here. In fact, I might put the one on here before I stick the sail on. I think that would be sensible. Tiny bit of glue, drop it on there and just let that dry. And I'll put one on here and show you how it went in a minute. Okay, that's glued on there, so we're just gonna pop some glue on the back and flip it over and just hold it in place. Now I'm getting my model a bit gluey. I wanted to say that this should be a really relaxing, slow exercise. I'm going quite quick because I want to make you a nice short video. Take your time and enjoy it. Let's get the other sail on. Now, the mizzen sail on these Zulus was a standing lug, which meant it was attached here, and the tack, this bit, was actually against the mast. That would mean the ship could tack, and they could just leave that up, that sail up, and sometimes it was pressed to the mast and sometimes it wasn't. Whereas over here, this one was a dipping lug, and the lug would have to be taken down, the sail put around the mast and hauled up again, but it meant they could leave this one alone. So you'll notice that my attachment point is here on the yard and here on the tack, lining up on the mast. You'll see it when it's done. So there we go, there's your Zulu model finished. And I had to sit for quite a while holding that, and then I just glued my little sheet there. This boat is on a long passage, so she's got both sails on the same side of the mast, on the starboard tack, as we say. And some skippers put them on either side of the mast. So wanted to just be able to display the masts, the sails, and all the rest of it. So maybe think about detailing the other side of your sails. And I hope you enjoy making the Zulu model.